Come on, man.
It's... It's...
Go for it, dude.
It's Friday! Friday! Friday!
It is indeed SDH AM. John here, you there. The hair's out of control. It's a Friday. You probably wouldn't have it any other way. And yes, I am still trying to recover from high school football. Here's the rundown of the morning as we know it. It'll be a lot of weekend preview stuff. Remember, we've got leagues over Europe. We'll go over what happened yesterday in Conference League. We've got AFCON kicking off on Sunday. Give you a bit of a preview there and what you can do, where to watch it, how to watch it, all the things. We've heard from Pep Guardiola this morning, very early before we were awake here on the East Coast, discussing everything going on with Manchester City and all of the gossip, rumor, and innuendo that's attached to the possibility of him leaving 18 months ahead of time, or at the end of this season anyway, and being replaced by Enzo Maresca. Enzo Maresca basically had to say the same thing this morning. I'm coaching Chelsea. I'm not doing nothing else. Pep Guardiola, I've got 18 months on my deal. I'm not doing anything else, despite the poking and prodding of the reporters overseas. And we'll listen to some of that too. And probably by the time that you finish with the Pep Guardiola sound that we have, you'll probably sit there and go, dude, give it a rest, meaning to the reporters. So we've got that to listen to this morning. We'll catch you up on the MLS Super Draft. We'll hear from Atlanta United's first selection, his quick Q&A that he had with Jason yesterday after it was announced that there were going to be players added by Atlanta United. So we'll go over a bit of the MLS draft and let you know what happened there. Georgia represented, whether it was in school or in location. We'll go over all of that too. And once again, we'll continue to navigate the Wilfred Nancy situation. We'll let you know what's going on there. Players are backing Wilfred Nancy, but pretty much anybody that they put a microphone in front of that's got a beef is sitting there and going after 4 matches in 15 days where players are trying to adjust to what in the wide world of sports is going on with Wilfred Nancy. Yeah, you're still getting all that punditry and all that silliness. So we'll get into that as well. Whatever's on your mind this morning, we'll get into that as we go here on a Friday at 10 o'clock. We're going to be joined by the new chairman of the NPSL, Steven Wagoner. He'll be traveling, so I don't know if he'll be in an airport or where he'll be, but we're going to try to catch him really quickly, find out what it's going to be like for Steven to be in charge of the NPSL heading into their 2026 season, the challenges that he sees, why he took the gig, all the things involving the new chairman of the NPSL. So we'll get into that with Steven Wagoner coming up in just a little bit. 10 o'clock once again, and he was elected chair, and so we'll get into his involvement once again. Some background on him: he's been involved with the league really for 12 years. First with DC United U23 NPSL team. He's been with Virginia Beach City in the Mid-Atlantic Conference, and so he's been a bit of the board of directors for the NPSL over the last decade. Regional board, corporate treasurer, now chairman of the board, and so founder of America Investment Management, private asset management and advisory firm focused on opportunities across sports and entertainment and real estate. Back in 2010, he co-founded Nexus Street, a business development services firm, and he's an executive board member there. Also founder of the Major League Development Association, sports management firm that operates soccer clubs and oversees pre-pro academy and youth development programs. He's got a B license and United Soccer Coaches Premier Diploma. And so summa cum laude at William and Mary, and BS from George Mason. And so we'll find out what's on his mind, why he decided to take the gig, and what he sees in the NPSL here in 2026. So we've got that this morning to lay it all out for you. And so then we'll prep you for everything heading into the weekend. And opening kickoff, I guess what we'll do here. I admittedly was torn what to do about opening kickoff. I really was. And in trying to figure out what to do, I figured what we would do is look at the continuing saga of Wilfred Nancy. And he now officially has the board of directors. He's got the okey doke. He's got the vote of confidence. And so we'll see where it goes from here. Here is what our friends from Sky Sports had when they eavesdropped on the weekly press conference prepping for the matches this weekend. Here's the latest rundown, and you get to hear from players who are put in front of microphones, and they want to learn from Wilfried Nancy. They want to be there, and they want to make sure that everything continues to go forward with Celtic. So here's the latest with Wilfried Nancy and Celtic. And if Jarrett drops in hour number 2, we will certainly talk to Jarrett about it, because like I said, I cannot wait for the opportunity for Jarrett to discuss everything that's going on, because I'm just going to sit back. That's how mad Jarrett is right now. But here's the latest with Wilfried Nancy, courtesy of our friends at Sky Sports News.
Board at Celtic have given their full backing to new head coach Wilfried Nancy, despite him losing all 4 games since taking charge. The pressure is mounting after losses to Hearts, Roma, St Mirren and then Dundee United in his first 15 days in the job. It's Celtic's worst run since 1978. Well, Nancy has also received support from one of his players today. Paulo Bernardo says the team needs to stick together and adapt to the new system. Some Celtic fans have already lost patience, although there is some sympathy for the situation that the new man has been thrown into mid-season.
We need to change it. It's on us. We need to find a solution, like to win again, and the levels of confidence will rise again. And we know that we are the best team here, but we need to prove it.
We're in a scenario where there are fans chanting against the manager after 4 games. What's that like as a player to hear and experience?
The fans suffer with these losses. It's not easy for them. They dedicate their lives probably for this club, and they want the club to be on the top level.
Are you all fully still behind the manager? Are you buying into what he's trying to do?
Yeah, of course. We are trying a new system with this new manager. We need to adapt. He believes in if this system is the best one that we can get. So we need to buy that and try to be.
And so there's the Paulo Bernardo, and breaking everything down from their perspective, from the players' perspective, with Wilfried Nancy getting the vote of confidence coming in this morning for his time at Celtic. Quick breaking news. Let me go ahead and hit the sounder here, because we got to keep an eye on this going forward. And on Monday, when Bart comes in, hopefully we'll get a little bit of perspective on this. Maybe we're going to hit. There it goes. News out of the combination USMNT and the Premier League. Tyler Adams, torn MCL, out 2 to 3 months. And so we'll keep an eye on the Tyler Adams injury and how it affects things involving the USMNT. So Bournemouth midfielder could be sidelined up to 3 months after tearing the MCL in his knee. Now facing, once again, according to Sam Joseph and Greg O'Keefe at the Athletic, a race against time. Getting ready for the friendlies. Was supposed to be try to be match fit international friendlies. Belgium, Portugal, March 28 and April 1. So Andoni Iraola via the Bournemouth Echo, quote, Tyler is injured, torn his MCL, so he'll be out, definitely out for some time. And so asked about recovery, Iraola said normally 2 to 3 months, 2 months optimistic, 2 months pessimistic, 3, something like this. So yes, it's a big blow. Quote, it's a big blow because it's an important player for us, but straight away when you see the mechanism, the action, we were feeling that there could be something there. Suffered the injury in the 4-4 crazy with Manchester United back on the 15th. Substituted 5 minutes into the match after being treated, replaced by Alex Scott. Blocked a shot from Mateus Cunha. He went to ground, and they performed the tests on his knee, walked to the sideline, tried to jog, couldn't continue. Iraola said after the game, further tests would be required to determine the extent of the injury. Already thought it was an MCL at the time, and he was relatively injury-free last year. First 2 campaigns in England, disrupted by hamstring and back injuries. Recently, the first American to win Premier League Goal of the Month with the goal against Sunderland that he had, and regular since making his debut as an 18-year-old back in 2017. So Bournemouth Echo, Andoni Iraola, Tyler Adams out 2 to 3 months with an MCL. And so going through Alexander Smith's words from the Bournemouth Echo, where is it? It's like all of a sudden it just decided to disappear. Nothing like sitting there and trying to scroll for something and then just basically just have the thing disappear on you. Anyway, it's been one of those mornings. Every word on Burnley. Okay, great. And so, and there's basically, subscribe to read the article. That would be why. Okay, never mind. All right, so Tyler Adams out 2 to 3 months. We'll keep an eye on that, and we'll see what Bart has to say involving that on Monday. So, morning, Abby, and morning, Bart. Yeah, Bart goes, yeah, Manchester United's woes are even seeping into other teams now. Absolutely true. So you've got that. You got that to keep an eye on with Tyler Adams. Like I said, we'll get context with Bart on this on Monday, and we'll find out maybe a little bit more as we go. Well, I mean, yeah, Bart after maybe 10:30, if you want to drop in today, that wouldn't necessarily be bad. So after our interview with Steven Wagoner at 10 o'clock, when that fades about 10:20, 10:30 or so. So after Steven Wagoner, how about that? Nothing like doing live booking during a show. So after Steven Wagoner, hour number 2, looks like Bart's going to come in to discuss the breaking news about Tyler Adams. So there you go. So we'll have an update today, and then we'll do it again on Monday and kind of give it a wider context. All right. Well, since we're here, we'll get into everything in the Premier League. And so, like I said, this weekend we've got Premier League, we've got stuff in Europe, we've got AFCON to get into, and we'll give you your previews there. Once again, remember, Steven Wagoner, the NPSL, is going to join us at 10 o'clock, and we'll go through everything there. And apparently Bart Keeler from the Soccer for US POD is going to drop by at 10:30, and we'll break down everything there because we've also got the NWSL stuff to get into where you still have 2 groups that aren't agreeing. So, Bart, that's your rundown. That's your question and your orders. Should you choose to accept them, once again, 10:30, it'll be Tyler Adams, NWSL, anything else we can think about involving stuff on Bart's mind at 10:30. All right, so let's get into juice boxes, Premier League matchups, and all those kinds of things. Once again, we got AFCON to get into. We got the Premier League to get into. We got Conference League to get into yesterday, which kind of ties into what happens with the Premier League this weekend because of the events of yesterday. So we'll get into the Premier League before we get into Conference League as a way to go from one to the other. So Premier League, once again, here's your numbers, and it's 3, 6, 8 matchups today because you've got to get ready for festive fixtures, which is always a joy. Just ask the players and the managers themselves. So we only have the one matchup, I think, on festive fixtures this year because TV decided that was what it was going to be, but then everything else falls in place. So here's the rundown of the weekend, and then on Monday we'll go through festive fixtures as they go. So 8 matches on Saturday. Early game, Newcastle and Chelsea. Newcastle's a slight dog at a plus 179. Chelsea's a plus 150. Draws a plus 250. 10 o'clock, you've got 4. Bournemouth, the big favorite at home at a minus 208, hosting Burnley and Scotty Tuhati, who's a plus 555. Brighton, a minus 154, hosting Sunderland at a plus 428. Man City hosting West Ham at a minus 500. West Ham is a plus 1092. Your draw is a plus 656. Since we are here, this was the conversation that was had, a bit of a back and forth, involving Pep Guardiola and his pre-weekend activities. You always have the one press conference where everybody gets to hop in and ask questions, and it's not embargoed and all this kind of stuff. So this is a combination from our friends at Manchester City and at Sky Sports News. The question was asked about Pep Guardiola's future. You can hear in Pep's voice as the reporter is trying to tap dance around the question and ask it 19 different ways, even though it had been answered the first time it was asked. And I phrased it like that on purpose. So here's how the question was raised to Pep Guardiola about his future, considering what Enzo Maresca has been asked about his future. And if Pep leaves, Enzo moves over from Chelsea to Manchester City. You can hear the exasperation rightfully in his voice. Once again, Pep Guardiola from this morning.
Well, the last 3 or 4 years, every time in a certain period, ask me about that question. So yeah, sooner or later, I don't know, with 75 or 76, I will quit from Manchester City. But I understand that questions when I have an end of a contract. But I have, you said perfectly, 18 months. So I'm so delighted, happy. I was excited with the development of the team and being there. That is only I can say. So, but you know, that question happened every single season at certain point. So I'm okay. So when I said many times, the club and myself, we are incredible connected, and in terms of the decision what we have to take, and when it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
What considerations do you give in those discussions? Because obviously there are some managers who say, for example, I'm going to leave at the end of this contract in the summer, and that has an adverse effect on performances in the players. You have so much history, so much affection for this club. What considerations do you have to bear all of that in mind alongside your own decision?
It's because the problem is that there are no discussions. End of the subject. There are no discussions.
But they will come at some point.
Yes, yeah. I will not be eternal here, but I said in my second season here, my third season, I will not be forever. Any of us will be forever in this world. So, but it's not discussions. So when it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Of course, the club must be prepared for everything, for the players, for the CEOs, except the owners, that they are here. Except they decide to sell the club. That is not, I think, it's going to happen. The rest, you know, the club have to be prepared, but it's not, you know, in that subject, it's not on the table right now.
The City fans will want me to ask if you plan to be here at the start of next season. So, do you plan to be here?
I answered that question the two questions before. So I'm here.
So yes.
So I'm here. What's going to happen, who knows that? Who knows? But even I have 10 years contract or I have 6 months contract. So football changed a lot. So now I'm focusing on West Ham and go a few days with my dad, and that's all. So and come back Nottingham and Sunderland and Chelsea and Brighton and all the stuff that we have ahead of us.
Have a great Christmas. Thank you.
Merry Christmas to you.
Pep's over it. And I would be too. I mean, legitimately. As much as I'd like to say I'm Pep Guardiola, Manchester City manager, that is not correct. Hang on just a second. Let me dump out of there. But legitimately, he says what he says. And this is why there are times where, and it's not just a Premier League thing, where I can understand why folks are exasperated in positions of power in athletics when you have folks continue to ask questions and they try to dance around an answer, try to go with the semantics of the answer and parse the thing through. I admit I parse answers when I'm talking about legalese, whether it's contracts or anything like that. I'll be the first person to sit there and I parse answers. I sit there and I look at agent negotiations and, well, so-and-so coach is thinking of leaving. Well, I haven't had any discussions with Team X. Well, that might be true, but that doesn't mean that your agent hasn't. I will admit that I parse those kinds of things on that side of the aisle. But when you have folks continue to ask, so you leaving? No. But you said this. I'm not leaving. But you said this, but I'm not leaving. Literally. And you heard how exasperated Pep Guardiola was after having to answer the question for the third time in that discussion. And by the end of it, when he says, yeah, I'm going to go spend a couple days with my dad, and then apparently the reporter got his 2.5 minutes, and he's happy, and happy Christmas, and Merry Christmas to you. You could tell Guardiola was over it. Probably over it after halfway through the second answer. And having to tap dance with a reporter over an idea of, I said this. No, I said this. And so literally he has to go through it for 2.5 minutes. And then he finally, the reporters finally, I guess, figured out, well, the fans want me to add. No, just say, I want to ask. The fans would be disappointed if I didn't. Just say, look, I got to ask. Don't sit there and go, well, well, the fans want me. No, you need to you're the one that wants to ask the question. And I don't know, maybe I'm still recovering from high school football as it says right here, but it's just, I'm yeah, my leash on questions and questioning is really short right now. Somebody says something, 9 times out of 10, it's a question that you have to ask. I get it, just to get the answer on tape. You got the answer on tape. Then you decided to do a follow-up and a half, trying to parse through the semantics of an answer. Legitimately, there are times where there are press conferences that I will watch, and you sit there and you go, man, I don't know how you made it through that without, banging your hand on a table or something like that. A lot of folks, they have better self-control than I do. And I admit that there are times where you sit there and you're looking at a press conference, from wherever, and you're going, questions asked and answered, counselor. Asked and answered, and they continue to go down that road. When you know what the answer is, and you think you're going to try and trip up the guy by asking the question as a follow-up or something like that. No, the fans are going to want me to ask this question. No, you want to ask this question. Don't spin it off that way. The fans, fine. You want to ask this question. Look, just change it up. I got to ask. I got to ask as a follow-up, X, Y, or Z. So I guess in opening kickoff this morning, what I would request, just be good listeners. Kind of listen through the noise. Listen through folks that want to ask questions with microphones for the sake of asking questions on microphones. Just listen through the noise. That's my request. Every single time we have press conferences and things like that, just listen to the answers, listen through the noise. And I'd like to think that we have done a pretty good job of analyzing stuff as we go. To sit there and and that's why we have 2 hours every day, because we can sit there and go, okay, let's take this, let's build on it, let's work through it. You know how or I always sit there and let's workshop through things. That's why we have this space. And so as a part of it, I'd like to think that when we are all in this, and then I learn as much from you, hopefully, I learn as much from you guys in our back and forth as I do in other interactions. But I'd like to think that when we see these kinds of things, we know what they look like. It's a reporter that wants to ask a question. Don't sit there and say, well, the fans are going to want me to. No, you want to ask the question. 2.5 times over. So just, when you have things like that, understand it for what it is. Take the chunk, listen to it, and put it off to the side. With Maresca possibly leaving, with Guardiola answering questions, I don't know when this started about, well, Pep might be leaving. Well, yeah, you kind of ask this every single time around the holidays. I don't know if you're trying to just come up with questions at this time or what, but this seems like a yearly thing, considering that everybody's like, oh, how much time's Guardiola got left on his deal? Is he leaving? Is he tired of it? I don't know what the trigger was this time around, but nevertheless, you sit there and it's like, oh, I don't know. Guardiola. It seems like you run out of news that you want to ask about, and so you bring up this topic again. Like I said, I don't know what the trigger was this time, whether it was someone at Chelsea asking about Maresca and Manchester City, or if it was someone asking at Manchester City, and then, we got to go ask Enzo Maresca about it. And Enzo Maresca is like, nah, not focused on that. So like I said, I don't know where the back and forth started this time around. Seems to be a yearly occurrence involving Manchester City. If the least amount of struggle, at the least amount of struggle, is it going to be it for Pep Guardiola at Manchester City? All right, so let's talk about struggles for a second. So things are struggling so much with the Premier League table right now, with Manchester City, that things are just so off the rails that Manchester City is 2 points behind Arsenal in second place. Right now, it's Arsenal, City, and Villa. I mean, good on Unai Emery for being third in the table right now. Then there's a bit of a gap, Chelsea, Crystal Palace. So that's your top 5. But things are just so off the rails right now at Manchester City. Pep Guardiola, I guess, he has to think about his future. They've only drawn once in their first 16. They've won 11, same as Arsenal. Scored 8 more goals than Arsenal. So obviously we have to ask Pep Guardiola about leaving because things are just so out of control. Things are just so out of control right now. I didn't get a harumph out of you. 4 out of 5 they've won. West Ham's next on the board. Festive fixtures. Hooray! But yes, things are so off the rails right now that you've got to ask Pep Guardiola, hey, you leaving? Ugh. All right. Well, like I said, just listen. I try to be a good listener in these kinds of things and understand the news peg idea. Sometimes there is no news and you're just asking a question to fill up space. Ooh, shiny object. So then we have to get to the other side of the shiny object. Once again, I think that's where we are. Not giving the season any kind of a benefit of the doubt. And so you got to come up with something. So what are we going to talk about? Oh, it's that time of year. Maybe they've got a list of topics per month. They come into the festive fixtures. Future of insert manager here at current club. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But yeah, that was Pep Guardiola at the end of it. Merry Christmas. You could just tell he's over it. He's like, bruh, asked and answered. You have to parse through the answer again. And then a third time. Asked and answered the first time, that should be it. Like I said, I don't know how Pep kept his cool in that. Really don't. So, yeah, things are so out of control at Manchester City. They're second in the table, 2 points behind. So, obviously, it's going to be a topic of conversation heading into festive fixtures. Pep Guardiola wants to go, of course. So, that's where we are. That's why I played that this morning. The other 10 o'clock match on Saturday, Wolves, the dog at home at the Molineux at a plus 261. Draws a plus 250. Brentford is a plus 106. Keep an eye on your starting lineups here, too, over the next week to 10 days. Talk about rotation, set your fantasy teams differently, and because of AFCON, all at the same time. Everything's kind of collapsing onto itself. Spurs and Liverpool, probably the match of the afternoon. 12:30, Liverpool a plus 106 at Spurs. I still don't know how they don't have a corporate sponsor for the stadium yet. Plus 241 and a draws a plus 274. 3 o'clock, Everton and Arsenal. Everton's a plus 500 at Bramley Moore. At Bramley Moore Dock, Arsenal's a minus 169, draws basically a plus 300. Also at 3 o'clock, Leeds and Palace. Leeds a plus 162, draws a plus 225. Crystal Palace is a plus 177. We'll get into Crystal Palace in a second. Sunday, the one match at 11:30, Villa and Manchester United. Villa's a plus 110, draws a plus 263. Manchester United a plus 237. And then Monday Night Football is Fulham and Nottingham Forest. Fulham's a plus 145, draws a plus 229, and Forest is a plus 198. Remember, there is no match on Christmas. You just have the one on Boxing Day, which is Friday. Manchester United, Newcastle, 3 o'clock. So, once again, you get through Monday Night Football. You don't have anything through Christmas. Then you've got Boxing Day, just the one. Then it's a full Saturday and the 2 matches left on Sunday to start your week all over again. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Boxing Day, Saturday, Sunday after what happens with Monday Night Football. Now, standings. Once again, we got into the first 5. And obviously the wheels have come off at Manchester City that they've won 4 in a row and they're 2 points back. So that means that Pep Guardiola's done. Arsenal, City, Villa, Chelsea. Palace is 5th right now. And they had a 2-match win streak snapped last time out. They're at 26 points ahead of Manchester United on goal difference. They're also ahead of Liverpool on goal difference, who's ahead of Sunderland in goals scored. So you have 4 teams at 26 points that get you 5 through 8. Everton, 24 points, had a 2-match win streak snapped themselves last time out. They're at 24. Brighton's at 23. They've only got 1 point in their last 3 matches. Spurs at 22. They've hit each column once in their last 3. Newcastle behind on goal difference. They had a 4-match unbeaten string snapped last time out. Bournemouth's 13th at 21 points, 2 draws. Actually, they only have 3 points in their last 5 matches. Fulham is at 20 points, and they have 1 more goal scored than Brentford. Forest right now is at 18 points. Leeds is at 16 points. They're unbeaten in their last 3, 2 draws and a win. West Ham's at 13. Burnley is at 10 points. They've lost their last 5. So have Wolves. Wolves in 16 matches have only scored 9 goals. They've also given up 35. Wolves are on track to have one of the worst seasons ever in Premier League history. So that's the rundown of where you are heading into the weekend. Oliver Glasner now at Crystal Palace might be stuck playing 9 matches in a month because they didn't get it done yesterday. So yesterday in Conference League, just to let you know. So results, and we'll get into the standings. Once again, top 8, they get to see everybody else go, take it out amongst each other. Larnaca wins, Athens wins. AZ Alkmaar and Jagiellonia Bialystok at a plus 438. Celje and Shelburne drew at a plus 465. Crystal Palace and KUPS drew at a plus 426. Once again, we'll go over the standings in a second. Dinamo Kyiv wins over Noah, our friends from Armenia that we learned about last time on the Roots. Lausanne winner at a plus 221, beat Fiorentina, who came to Lausanne on the road. Legia Warsaw, maybe they're turning things around, but they were also playing Lincoln Red Imps. Got a big win yesterday, 4-1. Mainz a winner at home. Rakov Shostakova a winner. They were favored on the road at Omonia Nicosia. Rayo Vallecano, big win. They were favored. Shakhtar draw at a plus 242 with Rijeka. Shamrock Rovers win at home. Lech Poznan win as a favorite on the road. Slovan Bratislava, they were a slight dog at home. They won. Sparta Prague shuts out Aberdeen 3-0. You don't hear the same kind of furor, or maybe you do. It might be just be quiet. But you don't hear the same kind of furor in and around Aberdeen that you do around Celtic. Sparta Prague shut them out yesterday to minus 400, 3-0. Strasbourg, once again, at a minus 625. They won yesterday. Rapid Vienna, they drew Zrinski at a plus 274. So now your standings, once again, out of the league phase. No, that's not what I hit. Stupid people. So Conference League standings. So after the first 6 matches, remember the first 8 go. Right now, the first 8 would be the ones that get to watch everybody else, batter each other around from 9 through 24. First 8, Strasbourg, Rakov Shostakova, Athens, Sparta Prague, Vallecano, Shakhtar, Mainz, and Larnaca. And you got a lot of folks in a very short amount of space. So those 8 get to watch everybody else. That includes Crystal Palace, who now gets to play 9 matches possibly in a month because it would be a 2-leg playoff to get out of the 9 through 24 section in Conference League. So it'd be Crystal Palace, AZ Alkmaar, Fiorentina. You have our friends from Noah who would be in as of today. KUPS, Shkenja Zrinski, and Sigma Olomouc, who would not be in. Lincoln Red Imps, Legia Warsaw, even with that win after they lost 3 in a row. Shamrock Rovers and our friend Pico Lopez. And Aberdeen 0-2-4 in the league phase for Conference League. 6 matches, 0-2-4, 2 points, 3 losses. They lost 2 in a row. They only scored 3 goals in the first 6 league matches. So the Crystal Palace in that 9 through 24 group, they could be playing 9 matches in a month to play the 2-legged activity where they would be playing, I believe, Zrinski. So 10 and 23 would be paired up, if my math is correct, to get out of that first section in the knockouts. If it was being played today. So that's where you are. So that's what you're staring at when it comes to Champions League and Conference League and all that kind of stuff. So we've survived yet another week of trying to figure out how to talk about 18 matches going on all at one time at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that was intriguing to hear Oliver Glasner try to have to figure out, okay, so we might be playing 9 matches in a month. You're going to be rotating, folks. And you're also not going to have Munoz for a little while because of the injury that he has. So it's going to test your back line. It's going to test your depth. And it's going to test probably how you're going to figure out your lineups in the Premier League. You might be doing some creative planning when it comes to starting 11. So if you're a Palace fan, you might want to keep an eye on things over the next 6 weeks or so, just to kind of see how Oliver Glasner judges his lineup and all that kind of stuff. Yes. So, all right, let me check here. Copa Colombia. Men's club spent $1.37 billion on agent fees in 25, 90% increase on 24. Maybe we all need to become agents. All right, so AFCON starts this weekend. And it is, the wild thing about it is 35 editions of AFCON. And we'll get into what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it coming up in a bit. Once again, 20 minutes from now, it is the new chair of the NPSL, Steven Wagoner. We'll catch up with him as he's going from one part of the planet to the other. We may not be able to see him, but we'll be able to hear him. So 35th edition of AFCON. And this would be a great reason to pick up Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps them out, helps you out. You get all the BNs. And, when you look at AFCON, it's going to be wall-to-wall. Starts on Sunday. And obviously a lot of folks are looking at it being Morocco's tournament to lose. Understandably so, with everything that we have seen from them over the last little while. So AFCON starts with the host Morocco taking on the Comoros at 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon on BN. So that would be the place to watch the tournament. Watch AFCON on BN. You can get it at Fanatis. And all the BNs you can get at Fanatis. So AFCON, your preview, to make sure that you're all on the same page. You're all on the same page with everything. So Cesc Fabregas got mad with Senegal over selecting his Asane Diao, because Cesc Fabregas right now is in a fight to keep his place with Como in Serie A. And so, understandably, for as long as they're in the tournament, unless something happens, Cesc Fabregas is going to be shorthanded. By the way, KCD is in Como with Heather O'Reilly. And so if you follow her on social media, you can see their trip to Como and everything. But Como is at Lecce, and that is next Saturday. So you have activity to get everybody back to square tomorrow and Sunday. And then they take the Christmas time off, and then they come back Saturday after Christmas. Como's at Lecce at a minus 120. Literally, it's changing as we're talking about it. So maybe they knew that we were talking about it. But right now, Como in the table in Serie A is 7th. They are right now a point out of Conference League consideration after coming up from Serie B and all of the chaos that's attached to it. Como right now is in 7th, 1 point out of Conference League. You understand why Cesc Fabregas is pissed. So you don't have that player. Manchester United is complaining to the Moroccan national team because of the call-up of Noussair Mazraoui. And once again, FIFA has pushed back the deadline once again to call players into tournaments. And you've got 2 examples of clubs in Europe that are already mad about it. And so if you've never seen AFCON, legitimately, it is one of the most chaotic tournaments that you will ever watch. So I will put my hand up in the air and sit there and go, if you've never seen it, go watch it. Seriously, if you've never seen AFCON, go watch it. And so you get stuff that is off the charts when it comes to the emotion that's attached. And I mean, it legitimately could be 2 of the smallest participating nations that are there. And you could sit there and go, well, man, I don't know. No, you need to think about, here's when you think about it, it could legitimately be, just to give you an idea on, since things start, and this is basically, we're going to be talking about it every day during Christmas week. Christmas week, obviously, we're not having shows on Thursdays. We might have some smaller shows on Wednesdays and Fridays in and around Christmas Day and New Year's Day. Might be a little shorter, but we'll be around. So every single day, you've got something going on, and you've got teams that are absolute dogs. Think Morocco, obviously, everybody thinks, once again, it's their tournament to lose. they're going up against the Comoros, who, by the way, in this opener at 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, the Comoros are a plus 1887. Doesn't matter. It could end up being a celebration for Morocco as they're hosting this tournament, or it could be just 9 times worth of chaos. Let me give you some of the numbers from the opening weekend here, and I'll give you Sunday and kind of Monday. So Monday you're going to have, and none of the matches except for the end of group stage are going to be played simultaneously. So it's going to be wall-to-wall AFCON on BN. Zambia is a dog at a plus 527. South Africa and Angola are within 60 juice boxes of each other. And Egypt and Zimbabwe is basically a plus 960. Egypt, a big favorite at a minus 300. It doesn't matter. You could have these big margins off to the side. They could end up being blowouts, but the emotion that's going to be attached to it is going to be off the charts. So if you can find a way to sit there and watch something at 7:30 in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning, or have us on and have that on a separate monitor, 12:30 or 3 o'clock, that's your start times, literally. 7:30, 10, 12:30, and 3 o'clock. They're not stepping on each other during the group stage. So keep an eye out for AFCON if you've never watched it, because the emotion of it is just absolutely nuts, and it's a great watch. So stars to look out for, and this was compiled by our friends at The Athletic. Obviously, you've got Morocco, you have Egypt and Mo Salah and Ashraf Hakimi with Morocco that's attached. Give you a couple, and here's the ones that they focus on. Noah Siddiqui from Congo, who you've seen at Sunderland. Jan Diomande from Ivory Coast. Leipzig, 19. Faris Shaibi from Algeria, midfielder right now at Eintracht Frankfurt. 6 assists so far on the season. Tawanda Maswanise from Zimbabwe. Motherwell. And so you're looking at this particular tournament seriously. It is absolutely off the charts. But it's coming up. This starts this weekend. It's going to be on every day. So once again, this is the kind of the unsolicited reason to get Fanatis. One of them is for tournaments like this. I just can't believe it's the 35th edition of AFCON. That was the thing that blew my mind. And apparently you can get all 52 matches for free. They're showing it for free in the UK, all 52 matches. And so you've got a broadcast deal, and for the first time, everything is free over the air. That's what it's like. And so you can get it over the air here at Fanatis by getting all the BNs. And so seriously, if you have not had the chance to ever see anything involving AFCON, do it. Do it. So that's your rundown of starting with that tournament. But anyway, here's what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it for today and tomorrow. We'll go ahead and just reserve Sunday for AFCON. We say 2 o'clock BN AFCON. FS2's got the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote. Supercoppa Italiana is at 2 on CBS Sports Network with Bologna and Inter. La Liga's on ESPN Deportes at 3. Fox Deportes has the Coupe de France at 3 with Lens and Fenier. Plus, A-League this afternoon, Bundesliga at 2:20, Bundesliga B at 12:30, Bundesliga, Zwei Bundesliga at 1 o'clock. Jan Regensburg and Energy Cottbus. That's a true sicko matchup there. Fox ONE has the league we don't talk about. Fox Soccer Plus has Coupe de France simulcast. Swansea City and Wrexham's at 3 o'clock on Paramount Plus. So that'd be a way to start your weekend. And then Supercopa is at 2 o'clock on Paramount Plus. On the women's side, DAZN USA, Frauen Bundesliga, 12:30, and the A-League at 3 a.m. and at 10 p.m. tonight. So tomorrow, we'll give you the list of leagues in time. BN's got the Turkish Super League at 9 and noon. CBS Sports Network has the championship doubleheader, 7:30 and 10. Southampton, Coventry City, Bristol City, Middlesbrough. NBC starts wall-to-wall. Big NBC's got Spurs and Liverpool at 12:30. Triple header on USA, 7:30, 10. They duck out to Big NBC, come back to Leeds and Crystal Palace at 3. BN and Espanol simulcast your Super League. ESPN Deportes triple header, 8, 10, 15, and 3. Real Madrid's at 3 o'clock. Celta de Vigo's at 8 a.m. Fox Deportes tomorrow. French Cup doubleheader. St. Mar Lusitano and Lille. Morning, David. Morning, Catalucci. Saint Maur Lusitano. I've never heard of them. And Lyon du Cher and Toulouse. I've never heard of Lyon du Cher. I've heard of Olympique Lyonnais, but not Lyon du Cher. That's at noon. 12:30, the league that we don't talk about, Serie A at 2:45. Universo, the same triple header being simulcast from USA. Telemundo's got Newcastle and Chelsea at 7:30 tomorrow morning. Golasso, doubleheader, Preston North and Norwich at 7:30, QPR Leicester at 10, Lazio and Cremonese at noon. The irony there, where you're going from the team that Jamie Vardy used to play for to the team that he's playing with, and he ended up getting honors for the team that he's currently playing with in Serie A. ESPN Plus has A-League, Eredivisie, 6 matches in the Bundesliga, 4 in Bundesliga B, drei Bundesliga at 3, 8 and 10:30. La Liga, quadruple header, La Liga Dos, Huesca and Racing Santander. That's also on the board. Fox O&E has Serie A, Serie B, French Cup, and the league we don't talk about. Fox Soccer Plus has Serie B and the French Cup simulcast. NBCSports.com has the 3 games that USA is not doing. Paramount Plus has 3-6 in the English Championship, 1 in League 2 with our friends from Walsall, 7:30. So if you're up early tomorrow morning, Notts County and Walsall, keep an eye on that. And then the 2 matches in Serie A, noon and 2:45. Peacock has all the things, has the 3 at 10 o'clock, 12:30, Goal Rush, which is where I go. ESPN Plus on the women's side, A-League, very, very early tomorrow morning or late tonight. Gainbridge Super League has a quadruple header, 2, 3:35, and 7:30. And that gets you into Sunday, which is AFCON, Scottish Premiership, Hearts and Rangers, Villa and Manchester United, Comoros and Morocco at 2 o'clock, quadruple header on La Liga, Fox Deportes, French Cup, Serie A, Brazil Cup at 4 o'clock, Vasco da Gama and Corinthians, underrated, Saudi Pro League, 12:30, yeah, whatever. Telemundo simulcasting your Premier League match. Golasso has your triple header in Serie A. ESPN Plus, Eredivisie, Bundesliga B, John, that's how you say it. Drei Bundesliga at 10:30 and 1:30. La Liga quadruple header at La Liga 2 at 8 a.m. Fox O&E, 4 French Cup matches, Serie A, league we don't talk about, Brazilian Cup simulcast, Fox Soccer Plus, triple header French Cup, Paramount Plus, Serie A quadruple header starting 6:30 Sunday morning. Not watching that one. Scottish Premiership, Hearts and Rangers, Villa and Manchester United, and the A-League at 4 a.m. on Sunday. So that is what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Good night. There's a lot to watch. There's a lot we'll talk about, obviously, as we go on Monday. So like I said, Monday, since we were talking about next week, deal is we'll be normal Monday, normal Tuesday, normal Wednesday, although I will probably be in a hotel room getting ready to celebrate the holiday. I think we're in a hotel room starting on Tuesday night. And then Wednesday will be from a hotel room. We'll obviously have Nico on at 10:30. Thursday, obviously, no show. Because we want you to celebrate with your family. We want you to spend that time with your family, as we will as well. And then once again, Friday, Nino's going to be with us at 10 o'clock. So we'll have something going on Friday, the 26th, on Boxing Day. We'll find out about everything. We'll find out what was under the tree for all of you guys and everything there that was attached. So normal Monday, normal Tuesday, normal Wednesday from a different location. No show Thursday, Boxing Day. And it'll be the same the following week to end the year. There'll be obviously no show New Year's Day, which is a Thursday. And so normal Monday, the 29th, normal Tuesday, the 30th, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve Day, the 31st, will be normal there. Nothing Thursday on New Year's Day. And then back on January 2nd of 26. So next 2 Thursdays, we won't have anything. And I know that a lot of you ask about your friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring, and Greg is traveling the planet right now. I think he was heading to San Diego this morning. So when 2026 comes back around, I think that obviously we're used to seeing them on Fridays. It's the day after holidays, so it would be like Boxing Day and January 2nd, things like that. So they're traveling for the rest of the season. So we'll catch back up with them in 2026. So that's your rundown of all of the things that are drifting in and around our universe, and that's our programming. That's our programming grid for the next couple of weeks. FIFA has apparently created the new $60 World Cup ticket category. So we'll keep an eye out on that, and how many of you end up with tickets in that $60 category. Keenan Dewsbury Hall is out of the Arsenal match. Jack Grealish is available. The Australian Federation, I don't know if you saw this, has banned, and this came out just before the show this morning, banned 4 players over match fixing, suspensions up to 7 years from Colin Miller over at The Athletic. 4 soccer players, including New Zealand international Clayton Lewis, ex-MacArthur FC Parrot Lewis, and Kieran Backus, were handed 5-year bans from the sport, backdated to May 17th when their no-fault interim suspensions began. Lewis, who's 28, and Backus, who's 34, have the option of reducing their respective bans by 12 months if they do 200 hours of unpaid football-related community service, with Australian soccer's governing body saying it would support FA's integrity and education programs. Should they take that option, their respective suspensions would expire in May of 28, when Lewis is 31 and Backus is 36. Rico Danzaki, formerly of Western United, Yuta Hirayama, most recently of Bayside Argonauts, banned from all football-related activities for 7 years, suspension starting on July 1st. Football Australia added all 4 players have accepted their suspensions and will not appeal. Lewis was capped 27 times by New Zealand from 15 to 24, spent the majority of his career in his homeland alongside a 2-year stint at Scunthorpe United ahead of joining MacArthur FC in 2023. Backus represented Australia up to the U17s, Perth Glory and Kaiser Chiefs. Danzaki, a 25-year-old Japanese midfielder, played in the A-League, having a short stint with Motherwell. Hirayama moved to Australia in 2020, spent time at non-professional clubs Western Pride, Brisbane City, and Peninsula Power. And this is one thing that I did not know, and this is Atlético Nacional and the Colombian Cup final with Deportivo Independiente Medellín. So when you watch on Nuestra Tele, you'll see like a DIM logo. That's them. Deportivo Independiente Medellín and Atlético Nacional. 59 people injured, 7 police officers, clashes between rival fans following the Colombian Cup final. Second leg at the Estadio Atanasio Girardot. Violence erupted after the match. On-pitch battle between groups of fans, a lot of them carrying weapons. Rival sets of fans invaded the pitch after the game, cutting short Atlético Nacional's trophy parade, players evacuating the pitch to the dressing room. And video footage is out there. I haven't seen it yet, showing the extent of the fighting. William Castano, commander of the local Abura Valley Metropolitan Police, said, quote, more than 120 kilos of pyrotechnic material, gunpowder, rockets, and flares seized by authorities after the violence. During the operation, seized flares and bazookas with more than 300 rounds, more than 20 boxes of firecrackers, and other dangerous items. 59 people reported injured, 7 police officers, 1 civilian requiring treatment at a medical center. Many matches in Colombia, according to Colin Miller, do not allow away fans, but the Medellin Derby usually permits visiting allocations. More than 1,100 police officers participated in the security operation, the final attended by over 40,000. And quoting Medellin's Secretary of Security, Manuel Villamejia, he told at Tele Antioquia, quote, those on the pitch behave like criminals and must be treated as such. Here, the security did not fail. What failed was the behavior of those who chose violence. Medellin's mayor posted on social media, they are not fans. They behave like criminals. I'm not going to describe what happened. The images are very clear. 8th Colombian Cup success for Atlético Nacional. All have come since 2012, with the most recent of DIM's 3 Cup successes coming in 2020. 120 kilos. 120 kilos. So 120 kilograms to pounds. How many pounds is 120 kilos? 120 kilos equals 264.5 pounds of explosives, fireworks, and all that. 265 pounds. The fans brought in enough explosive material to make up for a lightly sized right tackle in the National Football League. 264.5 pounds worth of stuff was confiscated that they brought in the door for the Colombia final. What in the wide world of sports? 120 kilos of explosive material. I cannot remember the last. That's a big number. From David, morning forecast. David says tickets to Ivory Coast, Senegal, unfortunately, have decreased demand. Hey, look, all I'm going to say is this. Go. You have the opportunity to go. You got a match, and you can find a way to get in the door, go. I mean, obviously, we will try and cover it as best we can here at SDH, and we will be following everything as we go forward. But yeah, if you've got the opportunity, and remember, since this is pricing, if you're really interested in a match, maybe wait till after the match starts. Demand goes down. Think of it like any other event. Looking forward to the world coming here, and the fact that we have Cabo Verde. Like I said, I'm looking forward to Cabo Verde. Give me all of the minnows. That's what I'm looking forward to. Give me all of the minnows that's attached. That's what I'm hunting for. And so really looking forward to how things are going to evolve there. And I know that new level of $60 pricing, we're going to be keeping an eye on that. It is after the top of the hour. And not knowing where on the planet Steven Wagoner is, we'll ask him, because the Globetrotter, we were warned about his Globetrotterness, if that is in fact a word. It is now a word anyway, if it's not. He is now the man who is in charge of the new chair of the NPSL. We bring him in and we ask the question on a Friday. Steven, where in the wide world of sports are you?
Absolutely. Well, hey, first of all, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no worries. We were warned about your Globetrotterness. Where exactly are you?
Yeah, so I'm actually in the DC area. Thanks for your patience today. I normally try to get on live with you. I'm driving down for a meeting in the Hampton Roads area. So yeah, thank you for your patience today. I appreciate it. Looking forward to talking with you.
Absolutely, no worries. Just safe guesting. We believe in safe guesting first and foremost. So that is both hands on the wheel and everything. Looking forward, and as long as you're good.
Absolutely.
I've got to ask this question. I know that you've been active at VBCFC. If I could get my upper plate to work this morning on a Friday, and the lay of the land there. Why now to be the new chair of the NPSL? What was it where you sat there and went, yeah, I think I'm ready for this kind of a challenge?
Absolutely. Well, I think there's a couple things that I look at. One is the landscape of soccer in the country. I think the NPSL has got a lot of potential. I think the current board and the members that we have, they're very passionate. They're excited about what we have with the NPSL, and I felt like I can help add value to it, to that, and help strengthen the league.
What do you think the league needs strengthening in coming in?
Yeah, no, very good question. I think there's a couple things that I'd like to look at, as we look into 2026. One is just the organizational structure of the league. How is that set up? I think the other items as well, connections to, whether it's professional teams, professional leagues, those types of things. I think one of the exciting things about the NPSL is the platform really gives team owners a lot of flexibility to build a very creative product. I think one of the challenges is that, we don't have, and this is factual, we don't have a platform above us at PLS or, a higher level, on paper. And so naturally some of our, success stories and which we want to celebrate move into those higher ranks. And so I think being able to continue to celebrate that, but also realign with our membership to make sure that we have opportunities for everybody to be successful. I think that's, those are all important things.
Off the top of your head, and this might be, a math number that you may not necessarily have, how many new franchises are coming in this season in the NPSL to be a part of the 26th season? Because we've interviewed a lot of them, and we always like to kind of get the lay of the land as to, okay, who's coming in, what are you looking for, those kinds of things. Any ideas how many new franchises are dropping in this year?
You still there?
Yeah, your Bluetooth transferred.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
How many new?
I'd have to get back to you on the exact number. And the reason is we're in a lot of just announced Hub City, this past week. We've got a lot of big conversations going on. To include, certain areas that I think we're able to bring in a whole conference. And I think those are things that we're working through right now. But I think it's really, really exciting.
Okay, I think you're there we go. There, the Bluetooth transferred back. Okay, there we go. When it comes to the vetting process for new franchises, and I know that this is, I mean, one end of the U.S. to the other, and I love to see the growth of the sport. When the league is vetting those new franchises to come in, what are you looking for from an ownership group and the stability, and how what's the idea about bringing new folks in under the tent, and what is that vetting process like?
Absolutely. So, one of the exciting things about the NPSL is that continues to strengthen. So our ownership, kind of team owner profile that we're looking to identify, it continues to evolve. And so, I think some of the things that we've seen where owners are very successful, obviously, is past performance and experience, not just as a soccer operator, but as an entrepreneur. I think the other items that we're looking for is, hey, do you have control of venues, right? Do you own your own venue? Do you have a long-term ground lease? Can you monetize that, right? And the reality is that when you're able to have influence, over the venue, you've got good past performance, you've got a good team around you. Naturally, I think good things, happen in the community. So those are some of the things that give you an idea. But naturally, the owner profile continues to evolve, and we're really excited because we keep getting a lot of our interest. To be fair, we get a lot of interest, and we're trying to be somewhat selective on the teams that we come in, to fit this profile to continue to grow with the league.
I'll ask it. How selective are you? It's almost like a game show. How selective
Yeah.
are you in this process? I mean, because I mean,
Yeah.
the last thing that the NPSL wants, the last thing any league wants, is a one and done, because
Correct.
it doesn't promote the league, and it doesn't benefit the league in the overall. And what you've been able to do there at VB City is one of those examples of you build, you're in, and then you want to continue to grow and evolve. But how do you sit there and prevent those one and dones to where you're having to sit there and try and reclaim a market all over again?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the challenges in you know, any sports team across any type of sport, right? And especially at the amateur level, right? But the way that we look at it is that you've got a lot of interest where team owners come in, and maybe they're not able to show, hey, a certain amount of liquid assets or a certain amount of past performance. And so what we want to try to do is encourage them and provide a platform. And you'll see the NPSL, regional league platform, that'll be a great fit for some of these teams, and then evolve into the NPSL. And the reason for that, to your point, it's great to have these teams come in, for the long term. I think the first year is exciting, the second year is exciting, the third year can be exciting. And what happens after years 2, 3, and 4? And that's typically where you start to see retention, where hey, if the owner's losing a lot of money, or it gets challenging or stale, like what does that look like over the next 5 years? And so I think one of our objectives as we look at this is to build a platform, one that everybody's excited to be in, but then two is set up where obviously we recognize we can't run the teams for the teams, but at the same time, those team owners look at it and say, hey, we do have a little bit of a playbook, and we've got a bigger picture, because I do think everybody gets excited in year one. And then naturally it's like, hey, how does that evolve into years 3 through 5? And that's really what we're looking at. So then that way there's stability in the league moving forward.
Steven Wagoner, new chairman of the NPSL, dropping by and hanging out with us here on the morning show. And when it comes to the league roadmap, are there any sections of the country where you would sit there and go, okay, I'd really like for us to grow here. I'd really like for us to solidify here. I'm comfortable where we are here with saturation, because you don't also want to get oversaturated when it comes to demand, even though supply is readily available for the NPSL. What I guess this is my Goldilocks question. So, what's too hard? What's too soft? What's just right now?
Absolutely. So one of the things I look at, and I think we look at it as a team, right? And we've got some great individuals between full-time staff working on it, and then obviously, regional board members and guys that have had a lot of success, in their markets, working this. But one of the things we look at is, hey, can we get to a certain number? And that for us is 6 to 8 teams in a conference. If you have more, fantastic, but we really don't want to be less than that. So we're not looking to say, hey, we need to be the largest league in the country. At the same time, we want to make sure that we've got quality in those conferences. And a lot of these areas that I'll talk about, these are just areas that I could say, hey, there's either a lot of competition in the areas, or there's just not a lot of offerings. Example, like the Northwest. That's a great example. In the Seattle, Portland area, that's always a what I call an up and coming area, and I think can continue to evolve for soccer. The golf Coast area, Florida. Those are some areas that naturally, regardless, take the NPSL out of it. It's harder to, have some consistency from time to time based on oversaturation of leagues and opportunities, or just not a lot of opportunity. So those are some of the areas, to include Texas. Those will be some of the areas that we look at and we say, hey, are there some creative ways to look at this where it's beneficial to the teams and the communities locally, but also an opportunity for the league to place a pretty strong foothold in those areas.
At the same time, I know that late in the season for the NPSL, and especially when you drift into the playoffs and go deep into the playoffs, you lose players because they got to go back to school. How much of a challenge is it to navigate, okay, well, what if we slide the schedule so we can keep our rosters? No, we've got to keep the schedule where it is because of, venues and footprint and all this kind of stuff. How difficult is it to navigate rosters and keeping them stacked and knowing that you're going to have players going back to where they were before the season started, even though they created a successful environment in that particular season for the club that they were at?
Absolutely. So that's it's kind of a two-pronged approach there. One is obviously from the league standpoint, there's only so many weeks in the season if you're just looking at the college player. I think one of the things that we need to reevaluate, and we've done over the last couple of years, and we'll see this going into this next year, especially with the college landscape evolving. How much are we dependent on just the college player? Or can we have a combination of that? A lot of our West Coast teams, they start early, February, March timeframe. And so, these are things that we'll definitely reflect on. I think the other aspect of it is what can we do in our home markets for, our home environments, I should say, for our existing teams, to continue to encourage players to want to be there. One, if you're obviously in a playoff run, that's always exciting. But, there's some other things that I look at. Hey, is it relationships with professional teams? Is it maybe there's, different ways from a competition standpoint to play other leagues, right? Hey, it'd be great to see the NPSL playing some other, high profile teams and other leagues at the amateur or professional level. And we can start to place those strategically. So that way, it's beneficial to all the leagues, but also it encourages players to say, hey, I really want to be a part of that and I want to be around. And so those are just a couple ideas that I have. And we're working on a couple things behind the scenes, and hopefully some of these can come out. But naturally, part of it is just, the home environment with the team and trying to, continue to create interest there.
Now that you are the grand exalted poobah in charge of the league, I know that you, and then I ask this question of owners and managers and coaches and all of this. I know that you've got a to-do list because a lot of
Sure.
folks will sit there and say, well, hey, well, the 2026 season, yeah, it's a couple months away, but it's really not. And there's that sense of calendar, and yeah, you look at the calendar, but no, we got to get to the calendar. We can't just sit there and go, oh, we have a schedule. Where is the to-do list for you to get ready for the season? And it might be something that's a malleable document already. Where is it? Is it in a Google Doc? Is it is it on a legal pad? Is it buried underneath the sofa cushion someplace? Is it on one of those big 6-foot by 8-foot dry erase boards that I don't currently see? That's got a bunch of different colors and lines and arrows and everything. Where is this to-do list of yours to get ready for the new season of the NP? And what do you think the next thing you can cross off of that to-do list is?
Well, I'll tell you what, we got a massive war room, and we're excited about it. No, I'm just kidding. Here's one of the exciting things, right? We've got a very good staff at the NPSL. I think that's one of our differentiators. And so, not only are they full-time and year-round, but in addition to that, we've already been planning a lot of different things for members. We're in the next coming months, we're going to have an all-members meeting to kind of kick off, this, look at it as a 120-day plan moving forward. We're also going to have our virtual owners meeting. And then, naturally, you'll have your logistical items, hey, playoffs and schedules and all those types of things. But also I want there to be, items for, team owners to look forward to. And not just team owners, players, as an example. Hey, why come to the NPSL? Somewhat rhetorical, but why would I want to play here over the summer months, especially when the games evolve and there's so many different options, right? And so these are things that we're looking at, continuously throughout the year. to answer your question directly, we've, I'm one guy, I like to put things on paper. Hey, let's get this stuff going. Let's share it. Let's be transparent. Let's communicate. And so that's one of the things that I think will be really exciting moving forward, is, kind of the leadership style that I have, I think will be, as of right now, I've gotten a lot of good encouragement from team owners and, in the community. And I'm excited to work with everybody, together to make this something that everybody's excited about.
So when you have questions yourself, who is on your speed dial to sit there and bounce ideas off of? Who are your who are your bartenders when you got a question, or when you just want to sit at a table and sit there and think about things?
I tell you what, I can't give you all my secret sauce, but I've got, I do have one of the benefits. I've got experience doing this in multiple industries. Take the soccer world out of it for a second, but in the IT world and the real estate world, obviously in the sports world, we've been around for quite a while. We've got different sports programs in different states, and so one of the things that I think makes me a little bit unique is I'm able to bring a different type of experience to the table. And I think, as far as, to answer your question as direct as possible, I've got relationships with industry leaders across different markets. And I think that's one of the things that, I can tap on a little bit from here and there. And then obviously it's a win-win, meaning they'll come to me for certain things and vice versa. But I think, that's the way, if you build a team, I've always looked at it's not about any one individual. If you can build a team, where everybody's excited moving forward into one direction, especially around the NPSL specifically, right? I think there's going to be a lot of good things to come, but hopefully that's we'll see what happens there. But hopefully some of these decisions come out and everybody's excited about them.
And so, yeah, I said, it's all right. So if I have this individual, no, I can't tell him this guy. I can't say this guy publicly. Uh, when it comes to the upcoming season and your tenure, what are you the most excited about when it comes to the NPSL in 26? And what are you I'll use the word, but then I'll twist it a little bit. What are you the most concerned about? What is the biggest challenge, do you think, for you and the league going into 26?
Actually, I'll talk a little bit, from a leadership standpoint in the NPSL. I'll also make it relatable, right? Because I think, I've also been wearing the, as an owner at the club for almost 13, 14 years. I think naturally any challenge there is, how do you continue to stay competitive, right? And how do you continue to be an exciting product in the community? And I think that's relationship building. I'll give you an example. Like at the team level, this past week we've had some great meetings with local college coaches and regional coaches. We're doing a lot of recruiting at this point, this time of the year, right? And then naturally at the NPSL level, we're trying to put some things together. Obviously, it's logistical for the league coming forward, but also in addition, how do we put this together where, there's some other things where team owners are like, hey, like I want to be a part of that. And I think that's what you're going to see moving forward. And then I guess locally as well, how do you engage local partners and sponsorships? I'll talk about Virginia Beach for a second. This will be public in the next week or so. We've just engaged on a 4-year title sponsor for our men's senior team. That's exciting, and so they're a local partner. They're a very successful restaurant in the area of Norfolk, and I think that's going to be exciting, in the community. So just if you're wearing both hats here, how do you stay relevant? How do you make it exciting? How do you have a very good product, on the field for fans, for the soccer player, and then how do we have a platform that gives people, some flexibility, but also enough structure where, hey, look, this is a professional run league. And I think that's kind of the combination that I've looked at. And I think that'll be a recipe for success.
Okay, as I sit here and look for restaurants in the Norfolk area, figure out who it is.
I'll tell you what, we'll have you in. You can come out. We'll take you out to dinner.
Hey, it's up. Look, I mean, if it's Guy Fieri Steakhouse, I'm not going to turn that down. How hard is it to, VB City's been at it for 12 years, right?
Yeah, so I would say 2013. We played 2014. Then obviously you got one COVID year, so I would give it at least in that range, depending on how many seasons we'd count. Just with you have one that we didn't have, but yeah, in that range. Yep.
So first 4 years, it's semi-pro. Then you join NPSL in 19, and then you're kind of on that regional national stage at that point. How difficult is it to maintain and grow in the current environment, considering what you've been able to do there at VB City, Obviously you don't want to stay stagnant. You want to grow and continue to evolve. How difficult is that in today's landscape to grow and evolve locally and still be safe when it comes to what you want to do with your growth curve?
Absolutely. Well, how it all got started, I had actually bought an NPSL membership, at the time, and I'd partnered with DC United, so you might already know this, may not, so I'll give you a quick 30-second story.
Mhm.
And so this is the way it started. I was working in partnership with DC United. Our head coach was Jaime Moreno. We had Ben Olsen involved, a lot of big names there. And the league was looking at expansion. I said, hey, I've got relationships down in that Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads, Norfolk area. Is there a way to do something down there? This was back in 2013, and so we launched, in 2014 and kind of kicked it off, right? And so I think it really comes back to, to your point, it's all relationship based because people want to do business that they like to work with. That's a natural thing. Players want to play in a club that they're comfortable with and they feel like they can progress forward. So I think those are natural things that we look at. But to your point, the game's evolved, right? It's like the articles that talk about the alphabet soup of leagues, right? Like, there's a new league at the, to be fair, at the pro, at the amateur, at the youth level every other week. There's a merger, there's this, there's that. And so I think part of that's trying to stay up with the curve. I think part of that is saying, hey, like focus on what we can control in our market. And if you do good things, naturally people are going to want to come out. And I think, I could give example after example of NPSL teams that have had success in the NPSL, and they're getting a couple thousand fans, 5,000 fans, 20,000 fans at a championship match. Like there's so many ways to go about it. So I think it's how do you get creative, focus on what you can control in the market, and then try to leverage that to make a very good fan experience.
When George Mason plays William and Mary, do you have one of those half and half T-shirts?
I guess the good news is they have similar colors. So I guess maybe the opportunity here is I just need to wear green and gold. Maybe that's the way to do it. I haven't been in that situation yet. I haven't been to a game where they're both playing, but that would probably be what I do today.
No truth to the rumor that you're changing the NPSL logo colors to green and gold?
A little bit of truth there. No, I'm just kidding. It is funny, though. I tell you what, I don't know how it all happened, but whether it was high school, college, you name it, for some reason, there was always green in the colors. And so, we just, I've somehow made that work. So in my closet, I don't have a lot of green, but I have a little bit left over from all the college stuff. So that's all good things.
If the NPSL could make a Christmas list for Santa, what would it be?
I like that. That's a tough one. Yeah, I tell you what, I tell you what, the thing that I cherish about the NPSL is the relationships that we have. And, I mean this honestly. I've known some great people, that we've been involved with, and, I've built some great relationships across the country, with team owners. And so, I think my wish list there is more, hey, can we continue to attract more good people to the organization? And I think, naturally you can find, this is my 2 cents. You can find money, you can find a way to get into these certain things and that. But, when you've got something where you've got good people around and everybody's excited to work together, I think that's where you got something special. So hopefully we can get more of that coming into the new year in 2026.
And we're looking forward to hearing from you and everybody else that's attached to the new horizon here in 2026 with the NPSL. The man was elected. He's elected. He is elected now. Elected. He's been a member of the board of directors, regional board member, corporate treasurer. Now he's chairman of the board. Steven Wagoner, selected chairman of the league for the NPSL. Cannot thank you enough for dropping by, especially as you're trying to conquer the planet and make sure that that everything is in the order that it is supposed to be. Do not be a stranger. If under any circumstance there's any time that you want to sit there and go, yeah, Yo Nelson, I got something I got to get off my chest, you know where you can do it. Can't thank you enough as you're racing around there trying to figure out things, getting ready for the Christmas holiday in 26. Don't be a stranger, my friend. Great to have you here on the show, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Absolutely. Well, hey, thanks again for having me. I definitely enjoyed it, and I look forward to, building a relationship with yourself. Thanks again.
There we go. Steven Wagoner. He's the new guy in charge. He is the major domo now as the chairman of the NPSL, and great to catch up with him. And thanks to Gary Moody and everybody at the NPSL for having us broker that. Like I said, Gary reached out to us and he's like, okay, hey, Steven Wagoner, he's the new chairman of the NPSL. Can you have, do something with him? I said, well, how about now? And so, yeah, Gary was like, sure, but he's going to be traveling. So, you might not be able to see his face, but you'll be able to catch up with him. And as you could tell, as you're conquering the planet like Steven is, sometimes Bluetooths go in and out. But anyway, Wagoner was elected as chairman of the NPSL all of 3 days ago. So we catch him 3 days on the job. And so that was kind of our Q&A, is to find out where he is and what's on his mind as he's getting ready for everything in the NPSL. Because as much as we sit there and we go, yeah, the season's over there, when we have all these 1v1s and we're catching up with folks that are attached to all these new franchises, and there's another new franchise that's drifting in Hub City, and they are going to be in the Frederick, Maryland area. And so we're going to be catching up with Hub City in just a little bit and find out what they're looking forward to when it comes to the NPSL. And the Black Roses, it's a great logo, by the way. And so we'll catch up with them and find out what's going on and what they're looking forward to in 2026. Because once again, they're going to be now. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the map and everything as to where they are. And so Mike Callis Stadium in Hagerstown, Maryland. So they're going to be in Hagerstown, Maryland. That's where they're going to be based. And so we're going to catch up with Hub City, the Black Roses. I love that logo. That's a really cool logo. So let me see the team store. No, if I go down the road to the team store, I'll probably end up buying things. And, well, actually, it says coming soon. So it saved me. All right. So it saved me for the Christmas holiday. So that's good stuff. But no, we'll catch up with Hub City, a new franchise. And that's why when we do these 1v1s, we try and find out where folks are. And when we can catch up with the new chairman of the NPSL, we got to find out where he is all of 3 days on the job. And so we've gotten those answers, and it's a good start once again. Great to have Steven Wagoner on the show with us here on the morning. So there you go. Great to catch up with him here on a Friday. And I know that sometimes, it's trying to find out. It's like, hey, dude, you've been on the job for 3 days. So how are you gonna work? It's like, we're not letting him rest. So that's where we are. Bart Keeler set to join us in a little bit, where we're going to go over the Tyler Adams injury. We'll go over the NWSL. And if you missed it, it is now out, the audio version of Morning Espresso, with video versions up. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that Jason catches up with the new first-round draft pick of Atlanta United. And so we've got that conversation that's there. Crew have re-signed defender Rudy Camacho. You're going to be getting these notes and everything that's going on of players with free agency and all the things. So just kind of keep your head on a swivel as to who's going where. And it's gonna be intriguing to see who goes where. We've seen some of the moves, and obviously Dane St. Clair, we talked about him. Red Bulls, it looks like DC is nearing a deal. DC spending some money, 4.5, and now it looks like they're bringing in Sean Nealis from Red Bulls, according to a source to Tommy Scoops. 187 appearances for Red Bulls. Looks like he's now heading to DC. Looks like Red Bulls are going to get something in the ballpark, according to Boger, to $350,000 in GAM. Off to DC as a defensive boost. Red Bulls are turning over their roster since Michael Bradley is now in charge. And so just remember, yesterday, DC selected Canadian defender Nikola Markovic from NC State with the #1 selection of the Super Draft. He's a sophomore, so I don't know if he is going to be readily available or if they're going to want Markovic to stay in school for a while. And we'll find out what's going on. All right, so hypodermic piling 2, not happening. Okay, so thank you for letting me know that we had this alleged individual in the Twitch pitch. And so, yeah, I mean, you guys let me know about these bots and everything. And so literally it is an instantaneous thing where we take care of these things. Solicitation. Trying to spell on a Friday. Man, that just doesn't work. 23 characters out of 2,000. Submit report. Report submitted. So hypodermic piling 2, you're not allowed. And thank you, David. No, it's like I said, credit goes to Gary Moody at the NPSL for letting us catch up with a man who's 3 days on the job as the new chair of the NPSL. So that was really cool. Catching up with any and all of the other things. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else that we met. Oh, yeah. Yohan Demay is going to be the new head coach in St. Louis. And so we'll see how Yohan Demay is going to navigate St. Louis. We'll try and catch up with them and see if we can catch up with Yohan Demay. Looks like Junior Joof has an offer from Anderlecht, freshman with the Lopes at Grand Canyon. He'd be one of the top super draft picks if he made himself draft eligible. And then this one was sneaky yesterday. We talked about it with Nico, with Jaden Nelson and possibly how he was going to be integrating with the Whitecaps. The answer is he's not. Goes to Austin as a part of a draft day deal, 2+6 and about 1,400 minutes. And so he goes from Vancouver to Austin. Vancouver gets $1.25 million in Garber bucks and the number 17 pick in the super draft. So that was one that came across the desk, and you're like, whoa, big pickup for Austin. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go forward, and keep an eye on any of the other moves that are there. Okay, now as promised, he ain't wasting no time. Time to bring in Bart here at the bottom of the hour. So Tyler Adams, go.
First off, happy Friday, everyone. Not great news to get on Friday morning, but I guess I hate to say silver lining over an injury, but it's only a couple months, and MCL is definitely a little bit easier to recover from than other ligaments in the knee. It does suck because he had finally gotten into a really great, not just run of form, but I think level of play, right? He wasn't just like, oh, he's doing well for a couple games. No, he has been a key component in their starting 11, really. I mean, he's been starting for Bournemouth, and that's now having to not just recover from injury, but hopefully win back a starting spot in the Premier League. We all know those are hard to get. That sucks for him. But again, silver lining is it's only 2 months, and it's 2 months that he'll be resting and not putting wear and tear on his body. So I guess that's okay, but you just don't like to see this type of injury so close to a World Cup. But hopefully February comes and he's back playing. Remember, the Premier League also has that little break, so I think that'll help him as well. I hate it for him.
Mm-hmm. So then from a national team perspective, what are we staring at position-wise or surrounding how this would affect anything that Mauricio Pochettino would like to do going forward?
Well, I think we saw this in some of the fall friendlies, right? We had Tanner Tessman and Aiden Morris play there. We also saw Christian Roldan playing there. So for me, it hurts the team because Tyler Adams is a better player than all of those guys, right? Just factually, Tyler is a dynamic player at that position, a leader on the field and in the locker room. But we don't have any games until March, right? So if he's healthy and ready to go in March, I don't know if he will be, but fine. I do hope that he gets called into camp regardless, if he can play or not, because I think, and we've said this multiple times on the show, like March needs to be your dudes. This is not an experimentation time. You got to have the guys that you feel like you're bringing, for the summer. And Tyler is absolutely like one of those. I think he's one of the 5 you write and pin on every single roster announcement. But if you can't play, there are guys who are able to step into that position and play not the same as Tyler, but relatively similar in terms of how they play the position. We also don't know what Johnny Cardoso is going to look like when he finally gets back into his form with Atletico. Like there are options there. It's just that Tyler is he's such a great player at that position and so important for this team.
Yeah, I mean, when he is out there at 100%, it is lockdown city, and you don't have to worry about
exactly.
And now obviously people's hair on the back of their neck, you're kind of sitting there going, okay, and you're kind of like, you're leaning into it a little bit. No, I get that completely. The other thing that I wanted to have you kind of break down here a little bit, once again, we're circling back into the land of the NWSL. And the update here is that the here, there, and everywhere, they're trying to be hip to be square, I guess. And the high impact player mechanism, right now, the NWSLPA has sent communication rejecting this idea for the 26th season once again. And for those that aren't as up to date on this, they're calling it the high impact player mechanism. I think they just just call it DP. I mean, because that's that is what it's like, the Larry Bird exception for a DP. It's like you pay the DP in Major League Soccer, whatever, but they only affect the cap at this point. So that's kind of where we are with they're calling it the high impact player. And so this was out of the negotiations with Trinity Rodman, and you're trying to make sure that she stays in this league, and others that are coming down the line. You don't know who it's going to be, but you want to have that mechanism in place so you don't lose these players or continue to lose these players to go to, say, Chelsea, which is where they all seem to go. League source said the mechanism was, quote, bigger than one player, and it is NWSLPA Executive Director Megan Burke told Meg Linehan at The Athletic yesterday, quote, there are a lot of unanswered questions, and we don't think the NWSL have clearly thought through all of the practical implementation, end quote. NWSLPA raises concerns about the speed at which the NWSL created the proposal and the lack of clarity in how it would be used, including metrics such as U.S. women's national team minutes, Ballon d'Or honors, and appearances and rankings created by publications outside the U.S. Now, I'm gonna bookmark it right there. I think the last time that you and I discussed this, I think you and I came up with and if I'm twisting this, let me know. I think you and I came to the agreement that these metrics that you have, I didn't think they were necessary. Look, if you want to call them a DP, call them a DP. You don't have to come up with some kind of a point system to sit there and say, well, it's 3 points for this, point and a half for that, and that's 3/4 of a point here. You're ranked 5th, you're ranked 1st. You go, it's like, Formula 1 points. You finish 1st, you get 10. No, look, if you want to make them a DP, just make them a DP, or make them a hip, or whatever. That's the thing. It's just take these metrics and take the scoring system out of it. Let the teams and the league decide. Look, if you wanted to make, I mean, seriously, if you wanted to make Denise O'Halloran a DP, you make her a DP. Why you want to put a point system in this whole thing? That to me, I'm like, I don't think you need a point system. If you just want to call somebody a D, if you had Alyssa Nair in the prime of her career in Chicago, and you want to make her your DP, or if you have, then you make her a DP. I mean, obviously you don't know. If no one knew who Barbara Bonda was, no one knew who Temra Shawingu was. You want to make them a DP out of the blocks when you're bringing them over to play in the NWSL? Make them a DP. Don't worry about a point system. Am I wrong?
I think that's where we felt, and I do think that this is where I understand both sides of the argument. Now, first off, I think we both agree that the points system, the sliding metric, the continuum, the parallelogram, the whatever it is, none of that makes sense, right? Because I understand you need to justify it to yourself. I don't think you need to justify it to the league. Now, the problem with that is it's because it was coming from like a pool of money. So the league was like, here's this much money over here that you can pull from if you have a high impact player. Well, if 14 to 18, whatever we end up getting to for the NWSL by 2030 even, teams want a high impact player. Like, my issue is you got a lot of teams dipping into that money to pay for someone. So I didn't love the high impact player mechanism the way they were doing it. And I agree with the PA in that multiple levels why I didn't like it. I'm with you. I think if the team wants to pay the players more money, and say you only get one a team, I don't know, whatever you want to say.
Sure.
1 to 3 somewhere. I don't know where I got the 3 number from. I don't know what that could have been like.
MLS has 3 DPs. So if you just want to sit there and treat it as, hey, professional league over here has 3 DPs.
I think that's what bothers me, John, is there's a template. And you say, okay, we're gonna figure out what the max budget charge you could have for a DP or a hit be. I think they're overrating it. Further, I think from going to the NWSLPA's response,
Yeah.
they're obviously trying to look out for the players as a whole, right? The
Yeah.
Players Association represents all players in NWSL, not just Trinity Rodman and Timo Shiminga and, players like that.
Yeah. Martha, Barbara Bond.
So
Yeah.
their proposal of just raise the salary cap by $1 million, in theory, would help all players. It won't necessarily, but you're looking at saying, okay, well, you can add $1 million to your salary charges of your budget charges, I should say, but to each player's salary. That benefits all players, again, in theory, not necessarily, but it does benefit all players because, okay, well, I doubt Spirit's putting $1 million total toward Trinity Rodman, right? But they might want to put some extra bucks toward Croy Bethune or some of the other dynamic players they have specifically on their roster that help them get to an NWSL championship. If you're Gotham, you have, I think, 72 players you brought in over the past year that are some sort of a national team. They've been accumulating Infinity Stones from national. You've got Jaden Shaw, Rose Lavelle, and Esther. You've got players that will probably demand a slightly higher salary now that they've won another NWSL championship. You're even looking at teams like one that I think has the potential but needs to tap into it is Seattle, where do you want to go actually be a good team again? And being able to have $1 million more in your salary budget to go get a high, and I'm going to use it because a high impact player, right? Because that's the point. That's the point. You want to get this money, whether it's $1 million added to the salary charge for your team or the salary budget for your team, or a high impact player mechanism. The point is, you're bringing in a high impact player, a player who is going to make your team better.
You're bringing in a hip replacement. I know that.
Right. That's the whole point of a designated player in MLS. It makes sense to do that in WSL. And if you're, again, a team like Seattle or a team like, Utah, maybe, I don't know what their actual ambitions are. But, teams that have somewhat of a desire to be better.
Angel City.
And you can bring in a good player or two.
Yeah.
Right. With an extra, to me, the extra $1 million in salary does make sense. I do think, though, that NWSL would be smart to have somewhat of a, I hate to say it, designated player salary mechanism.
Yeah.
That you say, this player is a high impact player for us. We're mixing all the metaphors now.
Hey, look.
And we want to pay this player more beyond our salary budget, right? That to me still makes sense in the grand scheme of things. Because again, as we said the last time we were talking, NWSL is not operating in a silo, right? They are operating in a global marketplace in which they are, and I'll still say it, the best potential product that is out there. Again, I think if you're looking at pure competition, NWSL is better. So,
top to bottom.
Okay. Yeah.
NWSL CBA minimum base salary cap each season for the length of the agreement, which runs until 2030. 25, the figure was $3.3 million, which then increased to 3.5 after the team's revenue share was added per the CBA. The board proposal allows.
Can I pause you there?
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What is MLS up to right now? I'm sorry. It's nearly 5.
The MLS cap, you mean?
Yeah.
Sorry. MLS, no, it's okay. No, we're workshopping this, and that's fine. MLS salary cap. Let's see. Roster rules and regs. Official cap in 23 was 5.2.
Yeah, it's like 5.5 nearly, right?
Yeah. Yes. Budget start in May of 24. It was $5,470,000. So we'll say 5.5 for the sake of argument.
So I think that's an important kind of thing to remember here is that doesn't include the extra money designated players get. So remember, designated players, their charge on the salary budget, right? So if you want, sorry, we're using technical terms on the salary cap. Their hit against the salary cap is whatever the highest you can make without getting this funny money. So at this point, it's like what,
740.
685.
Well, actually,
No,
okay.
714.
So
Yeah,
743, 750 is the maximum salary budget charge for
there
a
you go.
single player in Major League Soccer. Salary budget $5,950,000 for roster spots 1 through 20. Remember, you're talking 30 slots, and you have your U22s and things that don't count as much. But $5,950,000, and your maximum for your DPs is 743, 750. You can pay whatever you want,
Right.
up and over that number. That's on you. That DP signature gets you to 743, 750 maximum salary budget charge. A club may have no more than 20 players on the senior roster, subject to season-ending injury list, injured list, and loan acceptance. Clubs are not required to fill roster slots 19 and 20. Clubs may spread their entire salary budget across 18 senior roster players. A minimum salary budget charge will be imputed against the salary budget for each unfilled senior roster slot. So if you don't fill out your 20 and you've only got 18, you're still going to get the league min applied to slots 19 and 20. But 743, 750 is the max that Lionel Messi can go up against the books. Maximum salary budget charge for a single player. Then you get into allocation money and all that kind of stuff. But there's a number that's set off the top. If you want a hip replacement in the NWSL, set that kind of a number to go with that kind of a cap. And if you, NWSL owner, want to spend more than whatever number you want on a player, I think you should be able to do that, because then, once again, to your point about where the NWSL is as a league, if the NWSL top to bottom is the most competitive league in the world, then you will have those that want to invest in this league, whether they're playing in it currently or not. See blank, Arthur. You're going to have these folks that are going to want to invest in this league, invest in these players, and make this league continue to grow. But right now you're looking at this hip replacement number. And to me, I don't need rankings. Just set it as a thing like they do over in Major League Soccer. Give it that top dollar amount. Figure out your Berman bucks to how you're going to try to combat any budget charge over 743, 750 equivalent, and then go from there. Like I said, I don't think we're speaking out of school here.
Well, and here's the thing again with the Players Association, and if you're looking at the league as a whole, I do understand wanting to avoid the mind-numbing banality and intricacies of the MLS roster rules and salary rules. I totally get that. NWSL has in the past couple years implemented Berman bucks, right? So you do have am, gam, wham, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
And
actually, it's bam.
It's not bam. It's not quite the same as like with MLS and all of its tam, gam, whatever. But it is. I mean, it's basically that, right? Like you can trade money to go get players, right? And remember also NWSL has a net transfer rule where the money you spend on players coming in has to be, I forget what exactly the percentage is, but like you can't spend more basically than coming in than you do going out, which is a whole nother silly thing in my opinion, but whatever. They're kind of adopting these because I do understand to an extent that they need to be able to spend more money. That's just what it comes down to. You have to spend more money. Problem is, a lot of that is not going to players. So again, from the PA's perspective, designated players would possibly then add a cap on how much a player could earn in the league, right? So that's an issue too, which they don't want to do. So there are a lot of intricacies, and you also have to remember that NWSL rosters are smaller than MLS rosters, which is a whole nother thing entirely. But I get what the PA is trying to do here. They're just saying, why don't we just increase the salary cap to $1 million, right? And that allows you per team to say, okay, well, you know what, Trinity, you get all $1 million of this, right? Or you could say, actually, hey, we're adding $100,000, $200,000 to X amount of players. That it gives the teams a little bit more freedom. And again, in theory, the return would mean slightly more money for some other players on the roster rather than just one or two high impact players.
So NWSL, Megan Burke, the executive director, raises concerns once again about all the mechanisms. League's board of governors voted to approve the hip replacement idea last week, which would allow teams to spend up to $1 million outside the salary cap on those players, according to sources. Jeff Ruder was first to report the initial approval. Because it involves changes to the salary cap, the PA was also required to weigh in. Megan Burke said the specific change needs to be collectively bargained. Quote, league's trying to assert control over something that should be within the purview and discretion of the teams. And you both should be at the table to have these discussions. League shared the proposal a week ago ahead of the scheduled union board meeting. PA spoke to more than 100 players, shared the opinion that the proposed change was not in the best interest of the league. Group used that meeting to discuss and craft a response, saying that the mechanism takes control away from the teams to decide which players add value to the teams. And that I think that circles back to our idea of the point system, where it's restrictive to me, and legitimately you're sitting there and it's like, well, it's almost a restraint of trade argument where you sit there and it's like, okay, this kind of a person is who deserves to have the DP status, and y'all don't. So why take that away from the individual franchises? Because if they're the ones assembling the roster, yes, I know that you're all under this NWSL umbrella, but I would say that, like, look, if I'm assembling, if I'm assembling team, you're not competing, FC, and I want to sit there and I want to bring in a player. Look, if I want to bring in a player from Saturn and I want to make that player from Saturn a DP, I should be able to do that. I don't care what the stats are, against, Io and Europa. If the player scored 8 goals, then fine. If I want to make that player a DP, I should be able to make that player a DP. I don't want to be constricted into what lane I have to go to sit there and go, no, I want. There's a reason I'm assembling a roster. It's because that way I can choose how I want to do things. Group used the mechanism to discuss and craft a response. Quote, this is the league asserting itself in the middle of negotiations that are between a team and a player, and they're imposing ill-conceived criteria, according to Burke. We do not agree with its premise. We also find the criteria problematic. Our position is that they cannot unilaterally adopt this, or they exceed the scope of their authority in Section 8.16 of the CBA. That section, I know that this is legalese down here, and I apologize. That section defines the league's salary cap through 2030, states the NWSL may, in its discretion, after consultation with the PA, reduce or eliminate the salary cap charge for certain roster classifications. However, it does not state what that consultation must look like. Then the league comes back, created a plan that gives our teams financial ability to compete. Rule is specifically crafted to attract and retain these elite athletes while increasing compensation to players across the roster. Actively reviewing feedback from the NWSLPA as a part of the consultation. PA sent communication to the league suggesting $1 million salary cap increase instead of subjectively limiting how teams could use that money, which is what they said that the HIP mechanism would do. Megan Burke says what she says. PA's suggestion allows teams to spend as much or as little as they want on any given player above the minimum salary requirement within that last year's salary cap. NWSL does not have a maximum salary ceiling in the current CBA. 25 cap was 3.5, 200,000 addition, which is what we talked about. 2026 minimum salary cap also at 3.5. So, yikes. That's where we are. Burke said increasing the cap is a gamble on the union's part because the free market should and will make it clear what the Board of Governors should do. Resolution from the ongoing rule change would not necessarily guarantee a deal to keep Rodman in the league, nor would it resolve the grievance. Rodman's current contract, signed for $1.1 million in 22, ends in 12 days. Next European transfer window is in January. League sees the hip replacement as a way to keep players in the league after losing Naomi Gearman and Alyssa Thompson. PA holds that it favors European players, does not account for talents like Barbara Bondo, who was the 24 MVP. Megan Burke says that rather than opening a door, they're actually shutting several. Burke, I will say, I'm a lawyer. I'm not afraid. There's no harm in using the mechanisms that are available to us to have clarity over the rules of the road and how to interpret the contract. So I don't perceive that to be a bad thing, but we do think there needs to be clarity. Oof.
And I think what the Players Association wants to avoid is adding unnecessary caps to player earning potential underneath the HIP designation, right? Which I get. What I do think that they are going to eventually do is I think both sides will come to some sort of an agreement. And I think, you might get some sort of look, here's what I see happening. Okay. If I'm involved. Hey, we'll expand the salary cap by 500,000 this year. Right? And we'll increase the whatever their, yearly budget increase is. We'll add another 2% to that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So that we're, I think the owners don't want to commit to $1 million more each year, although they should. Which we can get back to that. But y'all are really rich. You can afford $1 million more a year on salaries. But what do I know? I'm not really rich, so whatever. And then adding a little bit more money each year so that you don't have to a little bit more money than you normally would each year. Let's say that, so that you do have an extra 2%, say again, on top of the normal increases you had scheduled. To again, most of these are thought with the idea of keeping players in the league, right? This is not, and maybe that again, I think we said this last time, is maybe that's the stipulation, is it has to be a player who's already been in the league. But I think, again, we don't want to get into all these roster rules. So for this, it's like, if I'm trying to give Trinity Rodman a new contract, I now have more money to give her, right? If I want to give, same team, a Croy Bethune, right? More money. Which don't, because she needs to come to Atlanta in a couple years. But, if you want to give her more money for a new contract, if you want to give, there's so many players in this league that are young players who deserve a bigger contract because of the impact they have on their
think
team.
about, because you've got Hirschfeld, you've got Bethune, and Hirschfeld's another one that you could sit there, in a couple of years, I think, hey, maybe you need to be here too. But there are a lot of young players who are going to be in a situation where you are going to need to pay them once they get out of that rookie deal. You've got Croy Bethune, you got Tara McCune, you've got let's see, as I sit here, and Hal Hirschfeld's another player that I think is going to end up getting it.
There's a Japanese international down in North Carolina who Manaka, who was third in the league this year in goals and assists. She's 21, 22, somewhere in that range. She's young. So again, do you want to keep a player like that in the league? I feel like you would want to, and she's probably going to want more money, because if you don't give her the money, you know where she's going to go? Chelsea. But Chelsea, Lyon, even Bayern or Arsenal might have the money to pay. That you will lose a player like that because they have that value. And that, again, is just the problem that they're trying to solve here. You cannot continue to lose. Thompson is a great example, actually, of this, working against NWSL. She was at the end of her contract, basically, with Angel City, or was coming up on it. And she said, well, I could wait another year for a contract negotiation, or I could go right now to Chelsea and get a lot more money than I can get probably from Angel City. Now, we don't really know what Angel City would have been willing to pay her, but she knew that there was a limit because of the salary budget. If you can't go outside your budget, and she knew that. So that's one of the big reasons why she went to Chelsea. The other reason is Chelsea paid a lot of money to Angel City. Angel City can now use that to go get other players and pay them less than they would have to pay Alyssa Thompson, but still pay a decent amount of money to them in return. So it's just one of those things. The league does not want to keep losing its star players. And Alyssa Thompson was a star player. Make no mistake about it. Burma's a star player. Now, it's a slightly different type of star player, but she was a star player. Again, there are players. Catarina Macario didn't even bother. You got women on the Canadian gold medal winning team, asterisks, that didn't even bother with NWSL, right? Who played college ball here. A lot of those Canadian women played college ball here, and they said, no, we'll go to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta make yourself a league of choice for the people who are already here. And we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, John, when your Seminoles won fifth national championship. There's a lot of talent here in the college game, especially. And if you're not able to keep that talent, because we've done away with the draft, granted, I think those players that I was talking about did this before the draft was eliminated. But anyway, point is, you want to keep this talent here, because if you don't, talk about the rest of the world catching up. Well, that's why.
Mm-hmm. And that's what you don't want. I mean, you want it to grow, but you don't want them to catch up that quickly, just because of machinations.
We want them to get better, but we still want to be the best.
Yeah, and so you have to be ahead of the curve. And you have to be legitimately. You have to be proactive instead of reactive. And I think there have been too many times in these kinds of, and I think legitimately. I don't think I'm underselling this, but this is a watershed moment for the league because of keeping these kinds of high quality players. You're going to set yourself up one way or the other for all of these high quality players to sit there and go, okay, I have a choice. I can stay at home like Sophia Wilson. So she got her option year and she's going back to Portland for 26. You're keeping those kinds of players, but what you want to do when those contracts expire, you want to find a reason to keep them around instead of having them go across the pond, where Bowley Clear Lake will sit there and it's like, what do you want salary wise? Yeah.
Well, and John, also something you don't want to do, and this is the downside of the parity leagues that we have here in the U.S. Right? You don't want Trinity Rodman going to Houston, a team that, or maybe Chicago. I don't, whichever. I don't want to speak ill of them, but these teams aren't very good. And probably would be more. Also struggle for ticket sales, by the way. Probably would be willing to offload a couple of players to get a Trinity Rodman, because that's where Washington is. And I do want people to understand this. This is not Washington necessarily saying like, oh, we can't pay Trinity. It's, we don't want to have to sacrifice the team we built just to keep someone who's already on the team. So again, you don't want her going to Utah or Chicago or Houston, a team that is not very good. Just flat out, sorry, they're not. You don't want that. You want your best player. Unfortunately, you do want good teams in your league, and parity is great. That's again what makes NWSL the best league top to bottom, is the competition. But you do want Kansas City, and you do want Washington, and you do want Gotham to continue to actually be good, right? Orlando winning and then continuing to be good this past year. That's a good thing for the league. Washington making a couple finals in the past 5 years. Gotham winning 2 in 3 years. Like, those are good things for the league, because you do want people to be able to latch on to teams as neutrals. Like, people in Birmingham, Alabama, who may not be able to go watch an NWSL game. Well, unfortunately, you want them to kind of latch on to the Spirit or Gotham and be like, they're fun to watch. I love that player. You don't want Trinity leaving the league. You really don't also want her to go to a team that's not very good, and then she's stuck on a bad team, not actually producing the way she should.
All right. So now that we have discussed the latest here, what are we going to be talking about on Monday?
Well, John, I do have thoughts on the Men's College Cup final and an offside or not offside call. We'll break it down. I guess my thoughts are we need to talk it through.
Yes.
But I'm sure we'll also have some refereeing down here. I'll also, hopefully, after I get done with this, finish editing a podcast episode for you about all the American soccer attendance articles that my friend Lawrence Dockery posts. We go through the 4 of them that he does, which is the top 25 table. Atlanta's on there twice, by the way. American club attendance standings, Atlanta's number 1. And then the U.S. men and women's national teams attendance as well. So that's what the episode is about, and we can talk more about that on Monday if you want. We can brag about Atlanta being The only team in MLS to appear on the top 25 table without needing the Messi bump.
And it is,
and also the highest attended MLS match of the year.
and
Non-league stuff.
I believe that Atlanta United's attendance figures are 25% above number 2, if I remember correctly. 41.
Oh, that makes sense because, yeah,
I think it's 41,000 plus for Atlanta. Then I think the next was 30,000, like 30,750.
31, something like that. Yeah, Seattle, and then Charlotte fell even further this year because, which is weird. Their best season yet. Yeah, we'll talk about that on Monday if you want to, John.
Absolutely,
because it was fun, and again, we get to brag about our club, despite being absolutely trash on the field, still bringing people into the city.
Absolutely. Bart Keeler, Soccer for US POD. Looking forward to episode M triple C IV, if I remember correctly. M is 100, C 3 C's, IV is 4. So M triple C IV.
No.
Yeah. M no, yeah, M is 100, isn't it?
I think M is 1,000.
Okay, so then it's C is 100.
Triple X.
C triple X IV.
IV.
C, yeah, C triple X IV. So I was one letter off. So yeah, C.
Yeah, Grubs, you're right. If we could just have a good season, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so C triple X IV coming up here in just a little bit. As always, my friend, great to see you, and can't wait for 1:34, and can't wait for Monday at 10:30.
Amen.
Right.
See y'all. Have a great
Be
weekend.
good. There goes Bart, and so that's Bart, and that's us for another go round. Let me do something really quickly. Let me tour the papers, and we'll see if there's anything that is worth checking out, and if there's anything that we might have missed as we get ready for the week. So it looks like Crystal Palace might be targeting Brendan Johnson. Keep an eye on this. The Guardian's asking, will Wolves go down as the worst Premier League team in history? Probably the answer is yes. Antoine Semenyo is a January target for Manchester United, Liverpool, and Manchester City. City apparently has already started discussions with Semenyo's folks. And so we'll keep an eye on that come January. Crystal Palace is in the playoffs. They blew that lead against KUPS. They had the 1-0 lead on a goal by Uche in the 5th. They gave up 2 goals in 3 minutes from Parizek and Ibrahim Cisse, and then Justin Deveni scores with 14 to go to tie it at 2. But now you add 9 more matches because you drew KUPS in the 27th league of their campaign. Now you've got to go to the end of February since you are now outside of the top 8. So you get 9 matches in a month. So that's what happens when you don't finish top 8. Saudi Arabia's 2034 World Cup stadium plans are facing delays in cost cutting, desire from the PIF to scale back costs. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's see. We did talk about Carabao Cup last time out in the Gummy Bear and all those kinds of things. We did mention Brendan Rodgers heading to Al-Qadsiya, grabbing that bag. So we'll see what the latest is with that as that continues to go forward. Like I said, I'm touring the papers really quickly before the whistle and the end of yet another week. I think is one of the cities that I think Seattle, is, or one of the cities is trimming their fan zones because of the draw that they got. So keep an eye out on that kind of response. Bayern's hit with a partial stadium closure after fireworks were in the stands, but it wasn't 265 pounds worth of fireworks like it was in Colombia. 265 pounds. That's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. 265 pounds smuggled. I know it wasn't by one person, but nevertheless, 265 pounds worth of explosives into a stadium for a final. Let's see. Nothing in that one. So let's see. Like I said, I'm touring the papers. And so really quickly, let's see. Nothing there. Thomas Frank feels supported by the club, even though he is under pressure to perform. Eddie Howe gave an update on injuries and such. He says Tino Livramento looks to have avoided serious injury after being forced off with a knee complaint. His knee complained. Newcastle's Gummy Bear Cup win over Fulham. Livramento's diagnosis is not 100% up and around. They don't quite know it yet, but it looks to have avoided serious injury, and obviously that's great news for fans of Newcastle. So let's see. I think we're good there. And with that one, so all right, so who am I missing? Oh yeah, that one is who I'm missing. And so we'll see what it looks like here. Sir Alex Ferguson says it's going to take 10 years to win the Premier League again. I think it's going to be more than that. And let's see, FIFA, the 45-pound World Cup tickets. We mentioned that. PSG got ordered to pay Kylian Mbappe £51.5 million in unpaid earnings. We mentioned the resignation of the Celtic chair after abuse and threats. Like I said, next time Jarrett comes in, we're going to go over this whole thing and let him let you know about the even-keeled Celtic fan. Looks like Jeremy Doku is out until January, and he also maintains that James Trafford is going to stay put. He is not going to move and go anyplace else. Let's see. England fans are considering a Wembley protest over World Cup ticket prices. Welcome to the new world, Mr. Columbus. And I think that is going to do it. So once again, it's been another great week. I can't thank Jason enough for filling in on Monday and Tuesday to break everything down for all of you guys. And once again, back on Monday, we'll do it again, and it will be Abe is on vacation. So understandably so. So Bart will be joining us in the 10 o'clock hour, and we'll break everything down there, and we'll see what else is on Bart's mind, or at 10 o'clock as opposed to 10:30. I don't know why I said 10:30, but 10 o'clock on Monday. So Bart can actually come in whenever he feels. So we might start the show off with Bart. So I'll just leave that open to Bart as to when he wants to come in on Monday, and we will break that all down and let you know what happened over the weekend. Remember, AFCON starts on Sunday, and that's going to be crazy every single day that they're going to have stuff going on. 4 matches, no overruns. Go to Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here, and that'll lay it all out for you. Broadcast plans once again. It is going to be normal Monday, normal Tuesday. Tuesday, we're actually going to catch up with our friends at AC Boise and find out, as a first-year club, what's it like to come up with a marketing plan in a town like Boise, and jerseys and the whole thing. So we'll find out about, we'll go behind the scenes and do a little marketing 101 with AC Boise, and that will run in the Wednesday show. We're taping it Tuesday, run it on Wednesday, and we'll have Nico on at 10:30 on Wednesday. No show Thursday because that's Christmas. We want you to spend time with family. And on Friday, Nino's going to join us at 10 o'clock in the morning, so that'll be there. So full Monday, full Tuesday, full Wednesday, probably from a hotel. And we'll have stuff from AC Boise, and we'll have Nico Moreno joining us on that day. Then, nothing Thursday, back on Friday. Nino's going to join us there, and that's going to be Christmas week here at SDH. Can't thank all you guys enough for another great week here in and around the sport of soccer. And thanks to the NPSL for letting us catch up with the new guy in charge, the new chairman, Steven Wagoner. Great to catch up with him as we've gone through yet another week here at SDH. Back on Monday at 9:05, and since it is the end of yet another week, you know what that means. We will Ropes. Ropes is like, I want Trinity to stay in the league until she can come to Atlanta. Now if we can have a good season. Yes. David, I don't know about this breathing thing that you're talking about. I have no clue what you're talking about. But that'll happen on the beach. I'll watch the boss stare at the golf and do it from the other bedroom. So that's coming up in a couple of weeks. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Get some rest. Watch a lot of soccer. We'll talk about it again on Monday. Since it is the end of yet another week, you know how we always wrap it up. It is right here. Thanks for hanging out with us for another week on SDH AM. Mucha Platiel, played safe. We'll see you soon.
The war was on. The keys on the typewriter had sharp points that kept sticking into our fingers. The dictating equipment started asking us questions, and our beepers sent electric shocks just through our body like a cattle prod. Out in the warehouse, the trucks kept banging into the docks, not even thinking about stopping. Oh, our frail bodies were strapped to the chairs, and our chairs were chained to the desks. Our pleas for justice were ignored, and the end seemed near. But we busted our slave drivers' little bitty balls. We've charged out of their brick fortress, the streets,